Hey, welcome back to the Imagine with Leo podcast. It is I, your host, Leo Love. I'm very grateful to be here. We continue the Early Life Reflections series, season 2. And as I continue to evolve, develop, etc., and reflect on what's left of 2025, and I think it's important to touch on the importance of making space for yourself. Today, I went to a beautiful book launch, and shout out to Sis Noxie and her book. And today there was something really important. She said she mentioned a story where there was a time as a creative she stopped. She stopped creating. She's a poet. She's an artist. She's a writer. She's a creator, really, and she spoke about a time in her life where she did not create. And that really struck a chord to me because I don't know who said this quote, but there's a quote that I read in a book. And the quote, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something along the lines of a creative that is not creating is a menace to society. And then I've recalled many times Amanda Seales on her Small Doses podcast. She has said that, the mathematicians and the scientists speak about the statistics of the time, the numbers of the time. But it's the artists and it's the creatives that speak about the feelings of the time and the emotions of the time. And for a long time, I have not been able to put that into words, or I downplayed my love for creativity or my creative side, because I remember growing up as a child, especially going in like a very, posh international school, there was always a sense of, and if you also, before I continue, if you come from a community of color, okay, specifically my Black folks, there's a slight shift now. But for those of us, we grew up in households where predominantly like the highest accolades or the highest respect was given to the kids who were in the sciences and were studying to be lawyers and doctors. And if you were the artsy fartsy kid, like you didn't really get like recognition like that. Again, there has since been a shift, but I'm just saying for most of us in our school years, for the majority, or if not all of our childhood, we were not really praised for our creativity. And a lot of the intention, even at school, a lot of praise was given to the students who just excelled at like further mathematics and science and biology and physics. But if you were somebody who said, if you excelled in sport, or if you excelled like in the arts or the social sciences, you weren't really given the same amount of, I would say, rep or recognition. It was slightly different for the sports students because, sport is just like that thing that brings people together. So you're more likely to get the recognition. But for those of us who are in the social sciences, we didn't really, well, if I'm being honest, I didn't always feel encouraged. And that can take a toll on you as a child. That can take a toll on you as a kid. And you almost question whether or not you can even make money out of your creativity. You question whether or not your art will help you support yourself. Will it help you support the people that you know and love? And so that can really put a dent on your creative process, your creative outlets, your creativity as a tool of coping, your creativity as a tool of expression, etc., etc. And she mentioned how there had been a situation in her school, and she was brave enough. She was brave enough to write about the situation that had been happening. And she speaks about how, there was a significant teacher who basically just shut her down, and how that really contributed to her not writing again because of the fear that was projected onto her. She was told that you need to consider your audience. You need to consider your audience when you're writing your poems. And I can very much relate to that because I've always had a voice, and I've always, like, I was the socially awkward kid growing up. I still am in some ways as an adult. But I was also the person who like spoke up when something was weird. And dare I say I almost like I almost didn't have like a filter. I almost didn't have, especially with my neurodivergencies, neurospicy, if you will. There were social cues that I just was not able to pick up at a very young age because my brain is neurospicy and it's moving at 220 kilometers per hour all day, every day, 24/7. I had not gained the skills first to even recognize what was happening to me and the type of brain that I had, because being a Black woman, people don't advocate for our health like that, and so a lot of us get our diagnoses very late. And the other part of it is, like I said, when your brain is traveling so fast all the time, because you don't have like your diagnoses, one, two, you don't know that there is something to quote unquote cope with or treat. Three, thus you don't learn the skills to do so. So only recently have I had to learn how to like slow down, which I'm also learning is very different to shutting down. I've learned to slow down, and in me slowing down, I am slowly also learning to pick up certain cues. I didn't always have that as a child. I never had that as a child. So when I used my voice, it was for the betterment of kids around me. It was for the betterment of speaking for the voiceless. It was for the betterment of speaking for those who maybe didn't always have the words. Sometimes it was very much annoying. I recall times where I was pushed against a wall or a gate, literally. I remember there was a silver gate in my primary school, and I recall students holding me by my collar, the collar of my shirt, of my school shirt, and basically trying to tell me to shut up and trying to use fear mongering to shut down my voice. So I also received like physical assaults as a child when using my voice. When using my voice as an art of expression through my creativity, my boldness, debating. I also used to do poetry, etc., etc. And I was also fear-mongered by a lot of teachers. I was also a student who wasn't liked by a lot of teachers. So there was a lot of a shutdown there as well. And there was fear-mongering that came from the boy students when I went to co-ed schools. And the fear mongering there was, well, you're ugly, you're dark skinned. They always used to make fun of my features, and you're loud. And no boy wants to have that. And have that really just means no boy wants to fuck you. Like no boy is gonna find you desirable, etc., etc. So for a long time, I had a fear of using my voice, a fear of being authentic in my voice. And I do believe all of that contributed to why it took me so long to even build this podcast, let alone be on radio. For those who don't know, I am on radio. And I'm currently prepping for my show Vow 88 on Vow 88.1, scheduled to start 1st October 2025 from 5 to 7 a.m. squad. Side note. But I just, when Usis Noxie was telling the story of her just being bullied, about, being bullied for being who she is, and not only who she is authentically, but also for speaking up for something that was so significant. I really felt that. And, going back to the whole, if you are creative and you are not creating, you're a menace to society, I think that also plays a role in how that really affects you as an artist and how scary it is as a creative. Because in my opinion, I don't think as a creative that creativity ever leaves you. There's always parts of you that consistently whisper and tell you that you are supposed to be creating, writing, singing, composing, dancing. There's always a part of you that says you're supposed to be creating. And I just feel the need to reflect on the importance of continuing in the journey. A lot of us, our creativity or our heart to create has been calcified by the brunt that life can throw at you, and the obstacles and the difficulties and the pains and the traumas. But I guess this episode is more so of a reflection to keep going. Another thing what Sister Noxie said was the importance of making time for yourself. And I would add to that and say that part of making time for yourself is to make time to feel. And Dr. Gabor Mate speaks about this all the time. Making the time to feel and to remain curious within those feelings. And when you are in that moment, it's not about finding the answers. It's not about, being rude or mean to yourself. It's just about allowing the feelings to come there and to be curious about them and to see what it is, what it was, what it could be, what it should be, etc., etc. And I think that's very significant because so often so many of us were not allowed to feel. And the irony is, especially as a creative, like, you draw inspiration and you draw creation from your feelings, because your feelings are like the codes to your spirit, to your soul, and that is where your art comes from. That is where you create, and that's where the most beautiful type of creativity is created. And you can forget that sometimes. And that's why it's important to reflect, hence the series being called The Early Life Reflections. But I just wanted to say that while it's still fresh in my mind, because I think it's an important reflection. And also she mentioned the importance of like just surrounding yourself with people who believe. She mentioned a story where a friend very much encouraged her, a friend that she was sending poetry to all the time at random hours of the day. She was sending her poems, and this friend encouraged her that you should publish one day. And that significance of not only having a friend who believes in you, but also having somebody close to you who believes that you can do the things that you say you're going to do is so important. And like we always say on this podcast, iron really does sharpen iron. So if you are in a season as a creative where you are in isolation, I would say encourage. Encourage. When I say encourage, I mean don't despair when you are in the feet of isolation, especially when we are living in a world that is all about being seen and being recognized. Don't be afraid to see what you find in the isolation, in the emotions, in the curiosity. Don't be afraid to keep creating, because in the midst of despair, that is your outlet. Your outlet is not to just shut it down and suppress, because it comes out in different ways. But ironically, in the feet of despair, your outlet is to create. And I guess don't be afraid of what you find in isolation. Don't be afraid of what you find in the midst of darkness. And trust and believe there's no condescension here. All the things that I be telling y'all, I am repeating it to myself. Because the Imagine with Leo podcast is a safe space where we discuss the things that need to be discussed. All the things that we think about, I try to bring to this podcast. Or the things that I'm thinking about, I should say, that maybe you can relate to. I always say if I can help one person, that's enough. But those are my reflections this week. And there's been a lot of curveballs thrown my way. My show was cut. My feature was cut. And we're all just trying to readjust to the new changes. I really am learning that the industry that I operate in is a very dog-eat-dog world. And, the challenges that come with it are overwhelming. But, I am consistently reminding myself that I am that girl. And I am the girl that I say that I am. I am the daughter of the Most High. I am the child of the Bantu. My ancestral bloodline is with me forever and always. So it's a matter of learning through this season. I'm not trying to get over it. I'm trying to get through it. And I'm grateful for the ones who are here. So to all my creatives, keep creating, keep working, keep grinding. I'll see you at work. This has been another episode of the Imagine with Leo podcast, Early Life Reflections Season 2. We keep going. We keep grinding. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Leave a 5-star review. I appreciate y'all.